And yesterday, Jimmy and I, we had a really nice conversation with Bob and Dave. We were talking about epic fails and talked a lot about the lessons learned when a project doesn't go the way that you expect it to. And one of the things that I didn't get to as we were in that conversation that I'd like to start off with right now, I just want to share, let's share some crazy stories.
What do you got?
Well, I was going to start with you.
Oh, you want me to come up with a crazy story?
Tell me about one of the crazier situations that you've encountered while you're doing what you do.
Well, I'll tell a story. We were talking about injuries yesterday and talking about crazy injuries, and you said your big fear is hurting somebody else.
Yeah.
And so is, of course, so is mine. And when anybody uses the grinding wheel in my shop, I make sure everybody in the room has protective goggles on. You know, if I see somebody pick up the grinder, I tell everybody to put glasses on if they're not wearing them. But when I was a kid, my brother and I were working on something together, and he was using a razor knife, and I was standing right behind him, and he was struggling with the knife, and the knife gave way, and he went like that and poked me right in the eye with the razor blade.
No.
So when I was about 8 years old, I almost lost my right eye, and so I have 5 stitches right here, right in the side of my eyelid. And so that year, it's on my Instagram, a picture of me and my brother, and it looks like I got like crust in my eye, but it's 5 stitches, and we're dressed up before Halloween, and I went out as a pirate that year with an eye patch on because I had medicine on my eye. But that was a crazy story about learning from other people's mistakes, but also being the victim of that mistake.
Yeah, that's pretty nutty. That does not. The razor blade, the eyeball is one of those what's grosser than gross things that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, it literally that little triangular blade on a typical carpet cutter at the time, you know, this triangle blade got buried right here in the side of my eye. Thankfully, it didn't hit my eyeball. It just hit skin and muscle.
Yikes.
And it's totally fine now. But that was about 8 years old when that happened.
All right.
So that's a crazy story.
That is pretty great. Yeah, that's.
I made it through that one okay, thankfully. And now my mother's been working at an ophthalmologist now for 20 years. I mean, she wasn't there at the time when that happened. So, you know, now I could have got stitches for free. But
how many fingers?
4 or 5.
Yeah. So you do a lot of different projects. You do a lot of your own projects in the shop. You got an incredible video channel. You got your show on YouTube.
Thank you. Gareth called it a show yesterday, and you just did today too. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well,
and, you know, people think in context of video.
Yeah, no, you're a showman.
Videos. Thank you.
And you got a great show.
Thank you.
How do you balance the stuff that you do, your video projects, with the projects that you have to make for some of your commercial activities?
On any given moment, like I have in my mind, I write things down on paper, and I really just write them down to just remember them. Once I write them down, it kind of goes into my visual memory. Yep. But there are times during the week where I'm already at the end of the week, and I realize I completely forgot to do a project, or at least begin it. But once I begin a project, it kind of gets set in stone. So if I know I have like 5 or 6 things to do, even like maybe 3 or 4 videos to do in that month, or maybe 1 or 2 in that week, if I at least begin the video and start the edit, which what I do is I start the video, and as soon as I have that footage that evening, I put it in a timeline. So any video that is in process is always built right up to that moment until I'm ready to shoot the next segment. So I'm always sort of building. Like there's like 5 or 6, you know, to create a metaphor, there's like 5 or 6 brick walls going at any given time. And I add a little bit to each one as I go through the week. And once I start them, then I can't forget them. But there are moments in time when I do forget projects. But of course, if it's a client job, they're checking in, they want to know if delivery's on time. So it's hard for me to literally forget something entirely. But I do, sometimes projects do slip my mind.
You ever have a client come up to you and say, I want XYZ type thing. I want some barrels for my shop. And can you make them on your YouTube show? I'll keep calling it show.
Well, it's funny. I forget who I talked about this. I don't know if I talked about it live, but a lot of my liquor clients, they're super nice to me and they're super kind. When I shoot a video of the process I do for them, and then I ask them to approve it, it takes weeks. 700 people have to look at it. It's always a private link, so I can see the views building privately, and I know that like maybe 20 people looked at it that day or that week, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and then somebody reluctantly will go, okay, let him put it up. So now I just put it up and I don't tell them. And then when they see it and it's got 50,000 views, they're like, "Oh my God, it's so cool!" But they don't see, it's so the corporate people involved in approving the video. Nobody wants to be the one in charge to say, "Yes, go do it," because if there's any fallout from it, then they'll be the one in trouble. I'll be the one in trouble if I just put it up. But once they see people viewing it and getting those impressions and those images of their branding and going into people's eyeballs, they're happy. That's it. And I don't do anything disparagingly or anything malicious. So
you might be leaving money on the table.
I know, but I do offer that service to some people. I say, "I'm going to make a video. Would you like me to make a full video?" And I'm still developing that sales pitch. So, but it is funny. People see some of my build videos, and I get paid handsomely for the build, and the video is just so that I have some content. And then they go, "Wow, I can't believe I never enjoyed watching a commercial so much as I just did now." And in my mind, I'm like, "Oh wow, I just made a commercial. I didn't realize it."
That's the whole new face of YouTube. That's how it's really transforming into something. The viral aspect, that's a misused term in a lot of ways, but you see a lot of companies they're really looking for that.
Yeah, and it's funny. I just put videos up. I wish I had more viral videos. I only have one viral video. I only have one video that's like over 1 million views. I think it's at 2 million views now.
Which one is that?
The AK-47 guitar.
Oh yeah. And
that was just I absolutely didn't expect it to go. I just figured it would be another 100,000 view video, but it's crazy. And the one behind it's about 500,000. So I don't know. I try to create interesting, bizarre things that are a little bit, that are on the semi-traditional path, but like with a left turn in them, so that they get that little extra, like, oh, I try anyway.
And you've done a lot of TV stuff. Tell me about how did that come about, and what did it mean to you?
Years and years ago, I did a show called Trash to Cash, but it was my brother's idea, and I was in LA at the time, and we pitched that show, and I wanted to be simply just like a person on set, to be behind the scenes producer of the props and the things that my brother created from the garbage. This was John's idea, to find things in the trash and make them into objects. That was really the direction. Let's find stuff and turn it into other stuff. And this was in 2000. And so we shot a pilot. I wasn't in the pilot, but when we pitched the show, I was over-prepared at the meeting. We pitched it to FX Network. They liked it. They had seen it without us in a meeting, and then they said, "Let's have a meeting." And in the meeting, I over-prepared. I was a little nervous. It was kind of out of my element. And the gentleman, whose name I can't remember, the executive producer, said, "Okay, I get it. Why don't we just do it this way?" He said, "Why don't you be the guy that makes the stuff on camera, and you be the brother that's funny?" And he looked at me and goes, "Are you okay with that?" And I said, "Sure." He's "All right, let's do a pilot." And that was the end of the meeting. And so he had already absorbed the concept before we got there. So that was the beginning of my brother and I together on camera. And that was Trash to Cash, 6 episodes on FX in 2001. 2002.
Okay.
Yeah. It took some time. I mean, TV takes forever. You
takes forever.
Plant a seed and it stays dead for years, and then all of a sudden it grows up really quick.
Yeah. Too quickly.
Yeah.
It has to happen tomorrow.
Exactly. When they had 18 months to think about it, and then all of a sudden one person gets the bug and says, "This is going to be my crown jewel." Yeah. And that's how it happens in the TV business. And then that led to Hammered a few years later. And then I had a pilot. I did a couple of other little shows here and there that never went anywhere, the DIY and HGTV. And then we did a pilot on our own called Lord of the Fleas in 2004. And it sat around. Everybody liked it, but nobody wanted to do it. It was about me and my brother finding garbage and then repurposing it and selling it at the flea market. And finally, my friend owns a production company, and I was there hanging signs in the production company for him that I made for him. And he said to me, I said to him, when are you going to make your own show? Because it was just a post house. He only ever, he hosted other shows, like Jersey Shore, all these shows are being made in his rooms. I said, when are you going to make your own show? And he goes, we're looking for a good project. He goes, we've been thinking about it. And so I sent him the link from my YouTube channel, which at the time was really just dormant. I only had no subscribers, no views, because I didn't know how to utilize it. So I had that pitch from 2004. Now it's 2010, 6 years later. He looked at it and goes, I want to try and sell this to Discovery. And fast forward, he did. And that was Dirty Money. And we did 12 episodes, and while we were in the middle of making those episodes, everybody at the network got switched around. Our producer, everybody changed. This is before it went to air, and so in the middle of that, the show was basically canceled before it was finished. So in hindsight, we figured that out.
Right. Yeah. No, that's one of the frustrating things. That's the TV world in a nutshell.
Yeah. And so the show went up, and I started getting some really beautiful fan mail from around the United States, and then shortly thereafter from around Europe, because they reran the show in Europe. They never reran it in America again, and then it ended up on Netflix. But shortly right after it ran, and we knew we weren't doing more episodes, my girlfriend encouraged me to do YouTube, and I started doing YouTube to simply build my fans. I said, if I'm going to try and sell another show, I want to have a fan base to go with me so that I have some more bargaining power, and so that they would take me more serious. Because every show that I've ever done is just a one-season show. You know, if it doesn't get immediate ratings, or if I don't end up in the news for some controversy, it's very just like, whatever, we'll see where it goes. Let's not promote it. Let's see if it works on its own. And unfortunately, I had been the victim of that a few times. And so, but when I started doing YouTube, as I started to get traction in YouTube, and the fans and the beautiful fans I met this weekend, and the people that really support the show, I don't want to do another TV show now, because this is my show. And like I said to Gareth yesterday, I said to you, thank you for calling it a show, because that shows that you guys respect it for what it is, and thank you.
I mean, it's a different form of production than what you would see on a
better form of production, in my opinion, because it's not all this fluff and this these bought shots and all this funk. Everything you're listening to sounds like AC/DC, but it's not. It sounds like the newest pop song, but it's not. They buy music from Pump and Fuel and all these other outside sources. So it just seems I sometimes now when I watch people on TV, I feel bad for them, because they're like rats in a cage. When I see talent like me and you and all the artists that are like when I watch the furniture show that just went on. Framework. I watch it. I feel bad for them. I'm like, I feel like I want to set them free like pigeons in the park, because they're like being exploited and made fun of, in a way,
Yeah. No, and that's if you think back of where a lot of these networks, the sort of the authenticity that they came up from, and how they've shifted so much of late. I won't say any names of networks, but it's it's tough.
Yeah. And now I get emails all the time. Do you want to be in this ensemble cast where you have to figure your way out of a paper bag? I'm like, I don't even answer them. I don't even answer them. And if I do have the opportunity to have a conversation with a production company, they all say, what do you want to do? I go, look at my YouTube channel. I want to do that for 30 minutes. And they go, but really, what do you want to do for TV? They all think my YouTube channel is oh, that's nice. They pat me on the head and they go, nice job. But what do you really want to do? That's not TV.
Well, you got to make it a game show.
Yeah, I don't know what I got to make it. I got to make it something that. But now I don't need their approval. Whereas I was seeking approval from the production companies and the networks, I don't need that approval anymore. I'm totally content just being where I'm at. So that's the great reward.
That's great. I mean, that's got to be a good feeling to get to that point.
It is. So I'm not making third season Jersey Shore money, but I'm doing it on my own terms. I'd rather give it away for free than do it and feel like a pigeon in a cage.
Right. Oh, yeah. So, back to the crazy stories. I'm ready for another one.
You gotta prompt me. I can't think of anything. The what? Which flood? I get flooded all the time. My basement shop has a sewer problem. Thanks, Deja. I got to tell a funny story about my good friend Deja there. My shop is in a basement in New York in the Lower East Side, and the building has a plumbing problem. There's a collapsed pipe in the floor. And so every once in a long while, I come into my shop, and there's this one section of the shop which is the entrance. It's kind of where my welding area is, if you can see my videos. And that little area is 6 inches lower. That whole area fills with human waste.
Oh, God.
So every once in a while, I come in my shop, and the first thing I do when I flick on the lights is I look to see if the cement floor is level all the way to the other wall. If it is, that means the very back dark part is water. If it's not level, then I'm like, okay, we're good today. Today's a good day. But if I kind of flick on the light and I just glimpse down the hallway and it just goes all the way across to the other side of the wall, I know that I'm filled with human waste I got to deal with. And so that happens once every 2 months, and it's a real difficult thing to deal with. I mean, I've had to call clients and say, I had a flood. I'm sorry I won't be able to deliver because I spent literally the last 10 hours trying to sort out this flood. And get rid of this. We throw sawdust down, we shovel it, and the waste comes out of the toilet because the building gets backed up and it comes out of the stack in the toilet. The stack is the row of pipes that are right above my toilet that go to every apartment above me. So every time they flush, it literally comes out of the toilet. So the toilet is just like throwing up whatever you put down the toilet. And it just flushes over the top like stew. And it always happens when no one's around because if we are there, I'm there to be able to sort of curtail it.
You must really love this workspace.
I don't, but it's, I like it. I love it because it's interesting and quirky, but I really need to, like, I'm planning on building a big space on my property in upstate New York. And I've talked about it in my videos, and the plan's changed a few times, but now Taylor and I are kind of set on a plan that we want to try and raise some money for, and we're trying to figure out the proper way to go about that. Whether to take a mortgage or do a Kickstarter or something, I'm trying to figure that out. So, but that's my plug story. Thanks, Dad.
Sounds gross.
So, Deja's my friend who, 10 years ago, Deja, I can't remember now who you knew, but you said you need to get involved with Make magazine. And this was 11 years ago when Make just started. Deja's in San Francisco, right? And who did you tell me you knew? Who did you know at the time? Dale, maybe I think it was Dale, yeah. You said, oh, my friend, I know this guy who just started. I said, you got to get involved. And it wasn't until 6 years after that that I actually really got involved. So,
well, thank you, because this guy, he's doing some incredible work on the site.
Can I tell another Deja story? I told the story in my New Orleans speech when I started doing my videos, and I knew that I wanted to do a lot of them. And I knew that if I didn't do a voiceover, that would be one element that would streamline the production of a lot of videos in a month. And so I left completely out the soundtrack, and I didn't put in any voiceover, and I left music out for the obvious reason of I would never be able to get copyright-free music, so I just let the tools do the talking. And then, so I did about 8 or 10 videos, and Deja, you called me one day and you go, dude, you are a genius. You are a genius. You have international videos. Now anybody in any language can watch your videos, and I thought for a minute, I'm like, what is he talking about? I'm like, oh, yeah. I didn't even do it for that reason, but that was the consequence of me not having a voiceover or a soundtrack where I speak, is that it's international all the way, visual story only. And I did that not realizing, but you're the one who pointed it out to me. I was like 10, 20 videos in when you called me and told me like what a genius I was. I said, am I? So that was a happy accident.
So have you found a lot of people that are since then copying that style?
Yeah. What happens is, and I don't mind, people write me a really nice email and say, I really love your style, or I get a Google Translate email which says I really love your style, and I'm sorry, that motor is
popcorn's coming, guys. They'll be here in just a minute.
And then so what happens is a few months later, I'll get an email from the same person that says, I decided to do a video and it came out just like yours. I hope you don't mind, and I give you a shout out. So that's what happens. They acknowledge it. They tell me, how inspiring it is, and then they do it on their own. And consciously or unconsciously, they copy me and they give me credit. So I don't mind.
I mean, it's an absolutely super fun way to watch and get inspired for a build and some projects. Sometimes what I do is everything is fast forwarded on your channel.
Mostly, yeah.
So I'll bump it up to 2x on YouTube, and I can watch twice as much DiResta that way. And I don't feel like I'm really getting a very different experience.
No, my high school students do that. They watch. I teach a high school now, and a great group of kids. A couple of them watch it on fast forward, and it wasn't until they showed me I knew that was available.
So maybe just start doing them twice as fast.
Well, I speed it up, and I look at it, and I'm like. I'm like, a lot of information is blurring by too quickly. So then I'll slow it down a little bit, and then I'm like, let me just isolate this one moment that needs to be slowed down. So That's how I kind of create that rhythm.
Got it. So what other lessons, as you have put a lot of focus into the YouTube show, aside from the epiphany that let's go without narration and without sound, just the organic sound of tools doing their thing. What other lessons have popped up that have allowed you to really turn this into something so fun and engaging?
I guess one good thing to me is that now, like, I've always been a tool seeker. Interesting tools, interesting methods, interesting techniques. So now that has expanded. Because now I'm constantly on the search for a cool tool, a cool, like even if it's just a hand tool or an awl or just an antique screwdriver, to just have like in the video for 1 second. So my passion for like antique tools and finding cool objects that do cool things is key. So now when I go to the flea market, I have a whole new reason to look around. And then like I think of how much TV shows cost and how much reward my videos give and how cheap they are to do. So when I'm at a flea market like I was just last week, and the guy goes, check this out. And the guy knows me. He goes, check this out. It's an anvil made on a peg stuck in a piece of wood that's like 150 years old that some farmer made. He goes, $100. I don't even go, I mean, $100. Then I take it because it's such a cool thing that's going to enrich one of my videos. And when I use these old tools, it also kind of gives, it's like a little spiritual, but I feel like I'm gaining something from the guy who had it before me, in a way, you know.
Any other fun ones that you found? That's great, the anvil.
A fan of mine, a fan who became a friend, my friend Kai, runs a recycling plant in Brooklyn. So he's on my list of people. He emails me all the time or sends me email pictures, text pictures of cool things that get thrown into the steel pile. So he texts me stuff all the time. I wish I had the shop that I will have now, because so many things he sends me, I'm like, save it for me, save it. Like he'll show me like a forklift and go, you want it, it's yours for the weight, you know, for 10 cents on the dollar, whatever it weighs, you know, on the pound.
Did you take it?
No, I can't. I don't have the room for it. But most recently he sent me a picture. It was a Chandler Price printing press, similar to the one here, but a 1940s version of it. But it had been broken because it had been shoved off the truck. They dropped it, so it's cracked in a few places. So if anybody noticed, I tweeted it about a month ago. I said, if anybody wants to save this thing in Brooklyn, it's a Chandler Price printing press from like 40s. Anyway, I took the flywheels because their flywheels aren't broken. So having that as a resource is great because Kai knows my videos. That's how we became friends. He's always looking for interest. He's like, dude, you can do this, you can do that. Recently in a video, the distillery where I'm shaping the copper into a big brass gear. Yeah. Kai saved that for me. So I got that from Kai. So like I'm finding all these really cool, interesting objects. And I brought that upstate with me just to get it out of my New York shop. I'm forming the metal. I'm like, I need like a steel corner to bang into it. I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, this brass gear. I just got it 2 days ago. So I start banging into the brass gear. So those little things I'm like more keen to be observant of. Finding interesting ways to do things.
Right. Find your own personal scavenge.
Yeah.
That's a nice hookup.
Yeah. Kai's the best. He's been amazing. Like I said, I just wish I'm able to take more of his stuff. He finds me these tremendous gears. I got this big gear, like a 4-foot diameter steel gear. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'll figure out something. Great stuff.
So, what do you have coming up? What you look at your list of things? What are we going to be seeing?
Well, I'm working on a book with John. John is the guy who collated this book. How do you say his name?
Bechtel. That's how we say it in the office. I hope that's right.
It sounds about right. So John and I are co-authoring a book. Well, he's going to basically do the hard stuff. I'm going to do the easy stuff for me. Yep. I'm going to make everything. And the Axe video, which I just put out, is one of those videos. The Brompton sign, which I put out, is going to be one. So those two are already published. But we're going to go into depth of these projects, and as I make them, they'll be published as far as the video is concerned. But the book will be a companion to those videos where I go deeply into like reasons why I made certain decisions, and you know, kind of like I want the book to be about, like, I call this as an open source. I know that word gets overused, but open source inventing. Like, I did these things, and you should do them too, or you can do them too, or take this example that I did and utilize it to your benefit. So that's what I want the book to be about, not necessarily a how-to. It's really more of like a, hey, you could do this because I figured it out as well, that kind of thing. And then, so that book is going to entail several videos. The most recent next one is going to be, I'm going to make a sort of the vintage-looking chest of drawers for all my CNC tools. Because I got, when you own a Bridgeport milling machine, you end up with all this extra fodder, tons of cutting heads and flywheels and all kinds of stuff. So I have a ton of it. So I'm going to make this sort of like, looks like a card catalog, and that'll be one of the projects in the book. And that's coming up. It's going to be all made out of oak.
I can't wait. I'm really excited about this book.
Thank you. Yeah. It's going to be fun. It's just, finding the voice is the hard part, but I think we're there now.
Good. So you're teaching high school.
I just started teaching at Solomon Schechter, Westchester High. good new friend Danny Aviv hired me. He found me from YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what are you teaching?
I'm just teaching the kids my college course, a little bit of how to invent, a little bit of technique, how to make molds. Last week we made a mold of one of the girls wanted a hand like this for a model she's making. So we got alginate and smooth cast, and I made a casting of her hand. And if anybody's ever done a hand alginate mold, as you peel the alginate off, it's like you're like unearthing a human being. You start to see like the folds of the skin and like the real fingerprints and stuff. So when she peeled it open, she screamed. She like didn't want to touch it. She was freaked out because it was so accurate.
That's
to
incredible.
her hand.
Yeah.
So that was a real funny
hilarious.
moment. So that's the great thing about teaching high school kids is that they're not jaded and they get excited about this stuff. Yeah, and it's a group of gifted kids, so they're extra interested. So it's fun.
One of the things from the few times that I've done teaching is how much I've learned from the students.
Yeah.
So how about that for you?
Well, the good, it is true. The younger students are a little bit more open-minded and a little bit like, if I ask a question, they all like bark answers. When I ask my 20-year-olds, they all just sit there. Like, I don't want to be the one that looks stupid, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut. But, you go through groups of students and you have like a group of kids that are really, not outgoing. And you have a group of kids that are outgoing. And the energy of the class is great. Because I know like that group of students that has like a good energy, I'll be friends with all of them for a long time. And I really dig that. I dig it. And my students, like one of my students is, how come you don't have your work on Tumblr? I'm like, I don't know what Tumblr is. How come you're not on Instagram? I go, what is Instagram? So they immediately show me. My students now are teaching me how to use Snapchat. So I'm using Snapchat stories. So I could like go through the day and talk about, what's going on my trip to California and back to New York. So Snapchat is something I didn't know anything about. I mean, I just thought it was for sending dirty pictures.
That's what I thought too.
Thinks, yeah.
That made me nervous when you told me that your students told you about Snapchat.
No. That was what its initial thing was, sort of, but now it's about Snapchat stories.
All right.
And I get, and my Snapchat is open to anybody to Snapchat me. Yeah. So they send me a little thing that says "Love your work." I haven't gotten anything subversive or anything dirty. Okay. Thankfully. So I think it's losing that connotation.
That's probably good for that company.
Yeah, what it is, it's an aspect of the product that wasn't what was sold, but that's what is now what it is. So I could basically do an ongoing thing, and if you're following me, it's like, imagine like a CNN reporter is at the scene of something, and you're interested in, they could just like every 20 minutes say, okay, this is still happening, or this is not happening, this is a change in the weather, and that's what I'm doing around like with my work in my shop and my travels. So it's like a little inside look. So I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for the students. So that's how I learned. I learned about social media, and my students give me feedback. Like they keep me, my girlfriend and my students, they kind of keep me a little bit like you look stupid if you do that, so don't do that. I'm like, okay, I won't do that.
That's good. Especially coming from that generation, because they're the ones that care the most.
Yeah.
It's hard to not look stupid in front of them.
And so another good thing that's great, and I've been teaching now my college class for 20-something years, 21 or 2 years, is that, again, I have to keep them engaged. So I have to my tap dance and my song and dance has to be fresh. Right. So I know my routine that I can do for them that's going to keep them interested, and I know, what's sort of timely and, what's current with like what's going on in design, if I'm up on it. Sometimes I'm a little behind the times. So it helps me to try and make sure that they're engaged.
Right.
So I have to constantly keep reinventing what my class is and the way I present it. So
got it.
That's another way. And then if I see something really cool, like Harbor Freight sells these spot welders for like $100. So I brought check. I brought my spot welder to class, and we started like welding coins together and like welding like Altoid cans together. Yeah. And I didn't expect them to like do it or like make a homework of it, but I've enlightened them. They're like, because they all want to weld. I'm like, here's a very simple way of connecting two pieces of metal. Just plug it in the wall. It gets a little sparky, so wear your glasses, and then they all know I have it. If they want to borrow mine, they can borrow mine. But now all of a sudden, it opens their thinking. They're like, oh wow, if I have these two pieces of metal, I can connect them. So what I did is I brought in a pocket full of washers, big like 3/4 inch washers, and I spot welded them together and made a bracelet. That was my demonstration for the thing to show like a result.
It's great.
So that's how my students also help me. They keep me thinking how I can keep them up to date.
Super fun. Let me check real quick. I want to make sure we're doing all right time-wise. How's the how are we for time? We have another half hour? 5:03. I didn't realize. I thought we had 30 minutes up here.
Oh wow.
Okay.
So now we got to ramp.
Now we got